Hi, this is the bad boy, Joey Janela, and you're listening to the Going in Raw podcast. Joey Janela always goes in.
This is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and you are listening to Going in Raw.
Hey everyone, Kenny Omega here. In case you didn't know, we have an awesome kick-butt show called Stephen Larson's Going in Raw, and they're going to be supporting AEW every week amongst many other things. Goodbye and smooch. Good night. Bye-bye.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Stephen Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found, and of course, taped live at the Twitch at twitch.tv/Stephen Larson. Before we get started with our AEW Rampage recap, hell of a night of wrestling, by the way. I wanted to give a shout out to some new patrons at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. We have Zach DeHack, A Bit Rusty, Nathan Sheets, Prismaslaw Juices, El Gorilla Baby, and Curtis Hinkle. Thank you so much for your support. Those new patrons get to check out our bonus content here at Going in Raw. Also, if they enjoy the show in the audio realm, for you podcast listeners out there, you can actually get the show completely and totally ad-free at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. For $5 a month, you get the bonus content as well. If you just want to check out the show itself, no bonus content, $3 a month at goinginraw.supercast.tech. Thanks again for those new patrons and all the patrons at Going in Raw. We appreciate the support. Without you guys, probably couldn't do this. Before we get to AEW Rampage, we're going to talk a little bit about the news. So we haven't really talked much about the new, what is it? Wow, Women's of Wrestling.
Women of Wrestling.
Yeah. Women's of Wrestling.
It's cool that that AJ Lee,
yeah,
is involved. I believe as executive producer.
Yeah,
that's great. Then
that's
they
great.
also
it's
say
awesome.
Tessa Blanchard's in the company,
right? Without qualifying that as being great. Like the first part was great. That next part is just it's factual. Tessa Blanchard. So Fightful Select today had an article. By the way, Fightful Select is great.
Go
Thousands
subscribe.
of people are subbing to it. If you haven't, you're missing out. It's great stuff.
Yes, great stuff.
That two promotions, NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, and Women of Wrestling, the fledgling promotion or rebooted promotions, made pitches involving Tessa Blanchard and La Rosa Negra. Now, you'll find out, if you don't know why that's a problem, you'll find out here in a second. According to Fightful, the NWA made a pitch for Tessa and Rosa to have a private meeting backstage, whereas Women of Wrestling apparently pitched a segment on camera. Now, there's a backstory here between these two, that the details of which you can Google, but it kind of goes like this. Sort of is the reason why Tessa Blanchard hasn't been seen in any promotions ever since she was sort of the hottest deal at, like, for example, around the All In time. There is
even later after that, when she won the Impact.
Yeah,
title.
right. Yeah. Well, no, she had won because Chelsea Green mentioned she had won the Impact title. She was going to bring it into All In.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of after that the story started percolating.
Yes.
And the most egregious of stories had to do with a match that took place between Tessa Blanchard and Rosa Negra years ago. And the accusation was put out there that Tessa had used some sort of racial slur and spat with saliva at La Rosa Negra. And some other people had backed this story up. She denied it and never really apologized or said anything that, hey, I did this and I'm fessing up to it. And so it was kind of surprising then that somebody actually did, because at that point, nobody would touch her. So it was a little bit surprising that this then happened. So continuing on with the story, Fightful noted that it wasn't specified to them whether this segment was for TV or social media or what the segment would have looked like. But they were told, quote, things varying from an apology to easing tensions, end quote. Fightful adds that sources close to La Rosa Negra told them that she was, quote, insulted by the offer. So evidently an attempt was made to try to get past this, but was not successful, to say the least.
Doesn't sound like it.
So some sort of a continuing development here in the story of Tessa Blanchard. So we'll see how this all plays out. I mean, I think that a new promotion with big money, Viacom behind them, is focusing on women's wrestling in this day and age is terrific.
Yes.
Because there's so much great talent out there. I'm not sure Tessa being the first person on board, it just sort of put a damper on things.
It really
a little
did.
bit.
It really did. Because I made the announcement. When I first heard about it. It was AJ Lee. They had the press conference, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's great. That's really exciting. She's getting back into wrestling. This is looking really promising." And then maybe it was around the time. Maybe it was before. I just didn't notice. Tessa Blanchard to be back, and I was like, well.
Well, and then they released the shirt. Yeah, there was a Tessa Blanchard shirt with like a nuclear bomb going off, and it said meaning nuclear heat, like she has nuclear heat. Well, in this case, the heat was it was understandable. it was shoot heat. So, anyways, interesting stuff. We'll keep you guys appraised that story.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Hail of a Rampage tonight. So interesting what's going on in the world of pro wrestling these days, man. Tonight was kind of one of those special nights.
It really was.
Where you got AEW Rampage, which hasn't really been, which has seen, let's be honest, in terms of total viewership in that terrible time slot. Sometimes it's taped. It's been doing real crummy these days in terms of the ratings.
Just barely got over 500,000 last week.
Right. But then they saw this opportunity because enter SmackDown on FS1. Moved over.
Super SmackDown.
Supersize SmackDown on FS1. Moved over because of Major League Baseball. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Moved over to FS1, where a year ago, a little over a year ago, less than a year ago, sorry, did about over 1 million. Rampage's debut did over 1 million. So it's possible, given the right amount of promotion, that the people will go out for. And Tony Khan's been in the media lately.
Promoting.
Big time, right?
A lot of promoting.
Using the fact that Super SmackDown overran an hour, half hour, sorry.
Head to head.
Head to head. So what does Tony do? He counter programs on YouTube a half hour earlier, so you get a whole hour of crossover tonight.
Well, it wasn't just a half hour. It was a whole hour. There's an hour and a half of crossover.
That's what I just said, a whole hour of crossover.
No. It was an hour and a half of crossover. Because Rampage buy-in was an hour long from 6 to 7, then a half hour overrun from SmackDown.
Into 7:30. You're correct. 90 minutes. Correct.
90 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
90 minute
I apologize.
Yes.
Misspoke. Math is not great on me. So that was pretty exciting stuff. And man, the wrestling fans, I'd like to, the wrestling fans really made out tonight because it was a really interesting moment.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of watching two shows at the same time.
It makes it difficult. I have a hard enough time paying attention to one show on any given night, especially if it's like Raw. Trying to pay attention to two shows, especially two shows that are doing interesting stuff, having good matches, was difficult. But I mean, like CM Punk and Matt Sydal was great. It was every
awesome.
match Punk has in AEW outdoes the one he just had before.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's like he's getting more comfortable. He's getting the ring rust off. He's getting his cardio. I'm sure his cardio is already fine. If he's training for MMA, his cardio is probably great.
I dare say this might have been his biggest challenge, given the length of time this match was scheduled for. Mm-hmm. And Matt Sydal is a dude who that dude's got some stamina.
Yeah.
You are not going to outlast Matt Sydal. He's fast, light on his feet, and he can go. And CM Punk is old, never has been terribly athletic, like compared to me.
Yeah, it is
but
prime,
compared to your average wrestler.
After not being in the ring for 7 years and having 3 matches under his belt.
Yeah,
to get in there with someone like Matt Sydal, who not only works fast but works technical and fast.
Yeah, and it was all over his face by the end. This dude's Punk was blown up, but he looked like he was enjoying every second.
And he held his own for the whole match.
And he did hold his own. Absolutely, yeah, he did. He went blow for blow. So yeah, that was really good. And then on the other screen we had SmackDown. We have our SmackDown review on a separate podcast, separate video, so you can check that out as well. It's going to go up around the same time as this.
But I'm sure the match everybody's going to be talking about. You can watch it right now. It's free on YouTube. I'm guessing this is available free on YouTube right now. Minoru Suzuki versus Bryan Danielson. Their first match since 2004. Delivered in every way possible. Just
Man,
fun
this is
from the opening bell
yeah.
to the very finish.
Because of the nature of tonight, this was on split screen with Street Profits versus Usos, which was a fine match as a street fight. Yeah. But what we're talking about is Danielson versus Suzuki, history being made, basically. They haven't fought since 2004. Before, obviously, Bryan Danielson was the name that he is. Daniel Bryanson, is the name that he was. And so this was obviously a huge moment for the AEW fans, for hardcore fans, for fans of Bryan Danielson, Minoru Suzuki. This is a huge moment, and I want to go back and watch this again because this might be a match of the year candidate. Yeah, it's up there. It is really up there. So yeah, this delivered, man. It absolutely delivered.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like they're two of my probably 10 favorite wrestlers ever. Expectations and anticipation was high with whole Larson, and I wasn't disappointed by any stretch of the imagination. It was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great, man. I mean, we're getting all these matches in AEW, and we're so spoiled these days, you know.
I know.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
It's
just nuts.
It's pretty crazy that Suzuki's apparently in the States for I don't know a couple months or so.
Oh,
he's going everywhere. He's going to be an Impact.
He's going everywhere
After Bound for Glory.
Right. Yeah.
He's had several matches in GCW.
He's had
several in AEW. He's been wrestling all over the country. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's terrific.
It's pretty great that he had an opening tonight where, Tony Khan could call him up and say, "Hey, you want to come wrestle Bryan Danielson on a Friday night?" And then, we as wrestling fans were lucky enough to get to witness it. It's fantastic.
Is it interesting to you? And maybe it is a matter of tuning back up after 7 years. The different paths that Bryan Danielson, that's his name, has had Kenny Omega, high profile match, and now Minoru Suzuki, another high profile match. CM Punk in his debut, Darby Allin, young star, huge star in AEW, but young star, and then other younger guys. He had Hobbs, Daniel Garcia. And Matt, not a young guy, but Matt Sydal, who's not a main eventer in any way, shape, or form in AEW. But it does feel, doesn't it, that there's like a deliberate way that they're rolling out CM Punk. And maybe this is on him. Hey, put me in there with a variety of opponents that have varying styles and pace and stamina, so that I can get back into it. So that once I'm tuned up, then you maybe put me in there with the big fish. Do you think that might be going on?
Oh, entirely possible. Yeah. I mean, you have the marquee match, him and Darby, and then he as you mentioned, he takes on wrestlers of various styles, and I'm sure you could do, even by his own admission, he said he was training for his return, but he wasn't training a ton because he didn't want to wear his body out already. You know, so and even in training, I imagine there's certain things like timing, pacing, obviously working with the crowd that you can't train for, at least not as well unless you're doing it live in front of people in a ring, And I would not be surprised if the situation was like, okay, we'll get this dream match out of the way with Darby, and it was fine, but you just see match after match that Punk is building up his stamina, he's getting his legs back under him, he's getting his timing back. He's sharpening up his storytelling chops, which are always good to begin with. Yeah. And just one match after the next is just getting better and better and better. And then it's entirely possible by the time we get to Revolution, he's going to have, a match against, I don't know about Kenny, maybe Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
at that point,
maybe MJF,
Right. At that point, you're talking about you got to get this guy in there with the bigger names because he's CM Punk. But it is kind of interesting. At this point, he's sort of on his undercard excursion in AEW, seemingly to get his legs under him.
And I'm sure that these are all people that he probably wants to work with.
Oh, I would imagine so. I would imagine so.
I know
yeah.
he mentioned prior to coming back, he mentioned Darby Allin, he mentioned Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah.
In the video package they ran tonight, they showed he has history with Matt Sydal.
Yeah.
So no, I would not be surprised if it was a combination of getting him back into top form, but also getting some of these matches that he wants to have in before they start putting them in main event type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's get to it then.
Yeah.
Let's
Sure.
Rampage buy-in kicked it off with Ty Conti taking on Santana Garrett. It's good to see Santana Garrett in AEW.
Oh, I know, right?
She was in NXT for a bit. They never really utilized her. She apparently got called up at one point to the main roster, never showed up on TV, and then was released.
That's weird.
So it's good to see her in AEW. She took the loss to Ty Conti. It was a pretty quick match. Ty gets the win with the Ty KO. One thing about this Rampage buy-in, they had to fill up some time with some extended video packages. This next one about Men of the Year and America Top Team was very long. I felt bad for Excalibur and Tony Schiavone, who apparently seemingly had to sit and be interviewed probably for an hour at least to get audio clips for this, and then a couple of the other packages that followed, because this one especially wouldn't. But I'll say this. It was long, but after watching it, you're like, okay, I understand why America Top Team's kind of a deal.
I think, it's kind of important in this story because, like, you and I, like, we know the basics of UFC, of MMA. We know some names. We know some events.
I mean, I know who Paige Van Zant is, Junior Dos Santos, Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah.
I know those names.
Right. But, like, I haven't actively watched since, like, Anderson Silva was still champ, which was 10 years ago. Every once in a while, I'll turn on if it's like a big fight. But no, I think a lengthy video recap like that, gets to introduce you to the players involved and exactly why this is what they're trying to make it out to be, which is a pretty important thing. I'm main evented tonight, and seemingly we're going to get some sort. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yes,
but seemingly we'll get some bigger blow off, involving the entire Inner Circle versus American Top Team.
That would seem to be the direction they're heading.
Yeah.
Yep.
After that, we had Lee Moriarty, who, by the way, after this match tonight was announced, he is officially signed with AEW, which is
congratulations.
Awesome.
Yes, that is fantastic. Great. Fantastic.
Took on Bobby Fish, and unfortunately for Lee, he took the L here.
This was a hard-hitting match, though, and it was an opportunity for Lee Moriarty to show off his skills on Rampage buy-in. I know he's had some matches on Dark and Elevation. I was kind of hoping that he would get the win here. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. He showed off his striking ability, his technical skills. Bob Fish, being the veteran, got the win. Hits a leaping back elbow, hits an exploder suplex that sends Moriarty into the ropes. Follows with a kick to the head to get the W. Yep.
After that, we had another video package: Daniel Bryanson versus Minoru Suzuki. This was good stuff.
Yeah.
And then, man, like you have it right here. You get your little note here. Match of the year 2021. You do that. It's like adding a tag whenever there's a really good match.
You got it.
It's easier at the end of the year.
So my memory, which is garbage.
Terrible. Dog shit, in the words of the Enforcer.
Yes. When someone says, hey, what was your match of the year? Instead of me just kind of fumbling over my words, I can just really slyly. MOTW 2021.
Yeah. QT Marshall versus Big Show, I guess.
I mean, obviously, Suzuki versus Daniel Bryanson, two of my favorite wrestlers ever. There's your answer. And they're like, who? Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. I am fascinated to know, like, how much of this match is, like, called in the ring, how much they go over in advance.
Yeah.
Like, this is just two vets. Like, Suzuki's, like, 53.
Yeah. Daniel Bryanson
40. Is 40. 40. And so much of it just seems like the universal language,
Well, I think like the technical mat-based stuff, they just kind of do it.
Oh, I had to ask Cal about that. I was like, hey, dude, when you're in there, he was like, yeah, you just go with it. You just flow.
Yeah.
But like, even when it's like, hey, let's stop for a second and just start trading stuff.
That's got to be
it's
playing.
like,
that's got to be playing.
I don't know. I would not be shocked if they're just like, hey, let's just go out there and do whatever. And then they just stop and they're like, hey, let's just start doing this now.
That could be.
Because, you see Suzuki, he's like, just go ahead.
Yeah.
What more does he need?
Yeah.
You don't have to call spots there.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. That segment happened early. So Danielson kicks Suzuki's leg, and Suzuki just like, all right, bring it on now. Let's go. Hit me. So Danielson hits an uppercut. Suzuki chops the hell out of him. They start trading shots. Danielson with kicks, Suzuki with chops, and eventually Suzuki drops Danielson with a forearm. They brawl on the floor for a bit. Suzuki's working over Danielson's arm. Eventually, though, Bryan sends Suzuki into the ring post, hits a running knee off the apron. He takes control for a bit. He hits some yes kicks, and then Suzuki's more or less hulking out of him. He'll hit a kick and fall on his back and just get right up and hulk out. Does that 2 or 3 times. Eventually, he sells it. Danielson hits some Danielson stomps, locks on cattle mutilation. Suzuki, being the highly trained veteran he is, knows how to roll out of it. So Danielson transitions to a pin. That gets him a 2 count. And then they kind of do the inverse what they did earlier with the yes kicks, where Suzuki's kicking Danielson. Danielson hulks up, and eventually he just falls over. That gets Suzuki a 2. This is a lot of really great character bits, and that's what I really like. It's like,
it's so much fun. Yeah.
It is. It's tons of fun. Down the finish, there's a bunch of forearms.
Now this finish right here, the finishing sequence was so like elaborate.
G1 final caliber finish right here.
I know this was planned because it was so. Yeah, this was rad as fuck. I love this.
So there's when Suzuki's setting up for the sleeper into the God style pile driver, he usually ducks a clothesline. And for a man who's 53 years old to have feet that are still that fast, because he every time it's quick and it's smooth every time. It's so damn impressive. So he ducks a clothesline. He's looking for a sleeper. Danielson escapes that. So Suzuki's looking for a pile driver. Danielson reverses that into a backdrop. They run the ropes a couple times, and that leads to a knee plus. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, I'm really underselling how good it was. Go check it out if you haven't watched it. It's so good.
You gotta watch this. You gotta watch this stuff.
It's so good. And so Bryan Danielson gets the win after. I guess I can't call it a knee plus anymore, running knee.
Yeah, the running knee strike, yeah. After that, we had a video package, CM Punk and Matt Sydal. All right, so Sydal's entrance happened on YouTube, and then you go over to TNT, and Punk's entrance happens on Rampage.
Correct. Another great match here.
Terrific stuff.
Great stuff. Early on, Sydal's working over Punk's leg. Doesn't really come into play so much at the end. At one point, Punk hits a slam on the apron. Sydal tumbles to the floor. Punk has control for a bit. He puts Sydal in the trio O, stomps on him, is looking for a sliding drop kick. Sydal evades that. They're brawling up on the top rope. Punk's looking for a superplex to the floor. Since this isn't a video game, he doesn't hit it. Sydal blocks. They brawl. They kind of punch each other. They both tumble to the floor. Back in the ring, Sydal hits a jumping knee. Punk kicks out at like 2.99999. It was so close.
Yeah, it was barely.
So Sydal's looking for a lightning spiral, I believe. Punk reverses that, hits a jumping knee. Clothesline that gets him a 2. Punk goes up to the top. Sydal hits Hurricane Rana. That gets him a 2 count. He starts stretching Punk. Punk eventually reverses that into an Anaconda Vice. Sydal gets his foot on the bottom rope. Punk goes for a Pepsi twist. Sydal escapes that, hits a head kick, hits a lightning spiral. Punk kicks out. But then Sydal goes to the top. Punk gets up, so he leaps over him, and Punk catches him into a fireman's carry, and then up into a GTS to get the win. Really fun match.
And he looked so relieved when that match was over with. Like the look on his face, he was blown up. But
the pace never let up. That's why
it never let up, and it went. There was like one moment when you're like, "Oh, finally a rest hold." But yeah, no, that was a long match. Too.
It was.
After that, we had the Dark Order backstage. Although I had to pay attention to SmackDown.
I had the volume low for the match so I can listen to what was happening on SmackDown. And by the time I got the volume back up on this, I missed the very beginning of what they said. It was something about Adam Cole and the Young Bucks getting involved in something. I'm assuming it's something involving Adam Page, Hangman Page. That's just a guess, but I don't know. But anyways, Dark Order challenged the Young Bucks and Adam Cole to a match.
Oh, maybe they mean the match at
Full Gear.
Full Gear.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
I would think so.
All right. After that, we had Ruby Soho versus the Bunny. Just a little side note here. This match went longer in time than all of the Queen's Crown matches.
It felt like it.
Combined.
It felt like it. It was
Wouldn't
a solid
shock
match.
me if that was actually a factual thing. Because this probably went 12 minutes, something like that.
Something like that. It was a good bout too.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Bunny has the upper hand for a good majority of it. She hits so Ruby's up on the second rope, and the Bunny hits a chop block on her, and then hits what Will Ospreay calls cheeky Nando's, where you tuck the head under the turnbuckle super kick, and then hits a German suplex off the second rope. That gets her a 2. Then at the end, though, Ruby wins with the backslide. Afterwards, Penelope Ford comes down, lays out Ruby with the brass knuckles.
Yep. After that, we had the awesome Rampage tradition Mark Henry interview with the main event players, Men of the Year and Inner Circle. Lambert said this is Junior Dos Santos' first match, but he's not coming alone.
He's got American Top Team with him.
And he says, and then Mark Henry says, Chris Jericho, how do you respond to that? And Jericho says, I remember my first match. I was nervous, but I was happy. My grandma baked me a cake. But he said, I'm going to whoop their asses, whoop your asses. No one's crazier than the Inner Circle. Bitches.
Yeah.
And then they went and fought. So we had Inner Circle versus Men of the Year and Junior Dos Santos.
So Lambert comes out with his team, berates the crowd for a bit. I couldn't even really hear what he was saying. Not because I wasn't paying attention, because the crowd was loud and booing him.
Yeah.
And
he's got that go-away heat.
He does. So, like, the story they set up in both the video package and a little bit in the picture-in-picture, side-by-side interview, split-screen interview, that's what I was looking for, is this beef that Jericho and Masvidal have. And so it came into play early in this match where Jericho, he has the upper hand a little bit in the ring, slides to the floor and gets right in Masvidal's face, and Ethan Page takes him out. And then Masvidal will get involved in the finish. So Jericho is looking for a code breaker on Scorpio Sky. Sky blocks that. He looks for a TKO. Jericho escapes, puts Scorpio Sky in the walls of Jericho. And so Paige Van Zant and a couple of members of American Top Team are sitting ringside. They hop the barricade. Paige Van Zant distracts the ref. Masvidal comes in, hits Jericho with the running knee. Scorpio Sky covers him to get the win.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, American Top Team, the rest of them
just swarms.
Beat the hell out of Jericho, and Santana and Ortiz eventually make their way out. They clear the ring.
So that leaves the question, we were asked this in the pre-show. Somebody mentioned blood and guts. I kind of feel like that's too much pro wrestling. Stadium Stampede 3 seems more up their alley. What else you got?
I will say this about blood and guts. What are MMA fights generally held inside? A cage. Blood and guts is not. It's a brawl inside a cage. You know. I wouldn't be. I'm expecting Stadium Stampede, but the thing about that is maybe that Stadium Stampede could kind of get a little on the goofy side.
Oh, it's a comedy match.
Basically. And if American Top Team don't want to be in a comedy match, they might want to be in blood and guts instead.
I would suggest. So as to not, everybody's different. Everybody's got their own. Trying to simulate a UFC environment might come off as disrespectful to the UFC.
Entirely
actual
possible.
Fighting.
I would never suggest that by having it in blood and guts, they're necessarily trying to simulate an MMA fight. We saw how that went down when Hager and Wardlow did that on the episode of Dynamite, where for the first minute it was decent, and then they start throwing punches and no one was getting knocked out. You're like, all right, this is silly.
I guess my bigger point is if they're there to have fun in pro wrestling, Stadium Stampede is fun. It's goofy. You don't feel dumb if you get pinned in a cage against a pro wrestler. And it's probably going to be one of the Men of the Year that gets pinned anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean if they lose, yeah.
Well, that's happening. Tonight was the win for them, for American Top Team. That's their win. They get this on Rampage on a Friday night. That's going to be their win. If they go to Stadium Stampede, the good guys are going to win. That's how Stadium Stampede always works. Anyways, let's go ahead and answer some questions here.
Here's something to consider real fast about the Stadium Stampede aspect of it. Well, either really. So Full Gear is in Minneapolis. So to do Stadium Stampede, what do you need?
Stadium.
And then the stadium would have to be either the University of Minnesota's football stadium, which on a Saturday, which I think Full Gear is on a Saturday, there's a chance there might be a game that day. I don't know if they're actually playing one or not. I haven't looked. Or you're talking the Vikings stadium the next day. Again, if they have a home game that weekend, that kind of takes it out of the equation. So I'm just sure in terms of logistics.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If it's even a possibility. I mean, I guess Target Field where the Twins play could potentially be open. What I'm saying is, odds are if they're going to do a Stadium Stampede match with these teams, it'll probably be the next time they're in Jacksonville.
Or they could simply just film it in Jacksonville and air it there. I mean, it's a tape thing anyways.
Yeah.
I know they did the finish last time in the arena. And yeah, you can't kayfabe that. You can't be like, oh, they came all the way from Jacksonville in 10 minutes. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I would think it's going to be some sort of gimmick match just to hide the fact that they're not pro wrestlers. But yeah, no, I get your point. Blood and Guts is largely a brawl.
But that's also two rings. It's basically War Games.
It is War Games. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and answer some questions.
Sure.
Nemo asks, who will be the first Forbidden Door wrestler to win in AEW?
Just win a match?
Has a Forbidden Door wrestler won in AEW? There has to have been one.
You would think the odds would seem to indicate that would have happened, but I'm trying to think.
All right, so
Did
Kenta? Kenny won with Kenta. That's right.
That's true.
But has there been a one-on-one situation?
Yeah, the only one I could
Jeff
think of.
Cobb.
He lost to Mox. Did Archer and Suzuki beat Mox and Kingston? That was like 3 weeks ago. I can't remember what happened in the match.
Archer did something off the apron. I remember that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Good Brothers? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good
I
question.
feel like Carl Anderson may have won a singles match in AEW. It might not have happened on Rampage or Dynamite, but I feel like he's won one.
I'm gonna say going outside the Sour Boy. I'm gonna say Tanahashi. He'll come in, have a warm-up match in AEW before he has a match against Mox or whoever. Tanahashi will beat Eddie Kingston. That's what it'll be.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Brew Crew Bomber with the sub. Thank you so much. And then there was a question here. Flats, would a Survivor Series match make more sense? All the smoke and mirrors for the UFC guys to try to get Sammy and Men of the Year over out of the back end of it.
What do they call Survivor Series in AEW? That's their Battle Bowl.
There you go. Arm Farms, Power Rank, AEW Championship reigns, bonus points for TNT title as well. Who has had the best title reign of anybody in AEW, Steve?
It's probably Mox.
I'm going to say
Mox.
Kenny, because I feel like his matches on a whole were better.
Oh, his match is definitely better. He's a much better wrestler. It probably is Kenny, but Mox had it for so long. He held it down during pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you want to go like most entertaining, it's Brody. It's Brody Lee. In terms of most entertaining, it's probably Brody Lee.
Yeah.
The way he won it.
I know. Gosh, that was great.
He won it. And that promo afterwards.
Yeah.
And then all the stuff on being
So
the elite
good.
and all the stuff.
So good.
Brody Lee has had the most entertaining title run for sure.
I think the two most entertaining ones have been Brody and been Miro.
I agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's see here. David Matushek. Since the Inner Circle American Top Team feud is still going, who do you think out of American Top Team should be the equals of Santana and Ortiz? Well, if Jorge is their main guy...
So you got Jorge and Jericho, and then you got Junior Dos Santos and Hager.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's Arlovsky, right? He's an American Top Team. I remember his name.
I mean, I don't know. I guess, really, it'd be Men of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Men of the Year.
It's the tag team.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a boring answer. I'm sorry. I don't know enough people, and I don't know who would be paired up in American Top Team.
I don't either.
But for the purpose of pro wrestling, that's the tag team.
It should be. I mean, at the end of the day, Men of the Year should be the one they're actually getting over in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Johnny F. Cliche with the sub says Jeff Cobb won, didn't he? I don't think he beat Mox, but I could be wrong.
I
Thunder
remember.
Rosa.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she's been the top Forbidden Door person.
Tronin, do you think Punk will be in this Eliminator tournament?
They're going to announce that on Dynamite. Is that right?
Yeah, the brackets.
Yeah. I don't know. I suspect not. I suspect not unless he gets his first. I mean, is that going to be his first loss? That's a pretty big loss.
Yeah.
Unless they just want to get that out of the way, which might not be a terrible idea.
So it says Mox beat Jeff Cobb. Sorry.
If Punk is paired against somebody, Punk looks awfully human these days. So if you're going to do a loss, do it now and show that the man is vulnerable. Because that way it makes his journey more palatable, you know?
Dang MQ says the Vikings play against the Chargers in Los Angeles the weekend of Full Gear. All right.
The Yellow Flash. When do you think Sammy should win the AEW World Title? 2024.
Okay.
Or 2025. It's going to be years from now.
Yeah.
But he's great. It's just there's a long line of big names ahead of him.
There is.
Mondo Vulgare says, was Danielson versus Suzuki the best pre-show / buy-in match ever? Clearly, it has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah, I would think so.
Unless the New Japan Rumble from 2017 counts, because that was on the pre-show.
White Brownie, if Rampage does well against SmackDown tonight, could you guys see TNT putting them against the last hour of SmackDown?
No, they're not going to want to mess with what they got.
No.
Eddie Brock's Venom. So with AEW coming up now, where do you rank all the companies now? So here's the companies. WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, Lucha Underground, CMLL. He puts WCW in here. Is it like WCW 2021?
Oh, maybe.
So rank all the companies now in terms of, I would say, what share of the wrestling fans do they have? So clearly WWE is the number one company.
Yeah, WWE number one, AEW number two.
Right. After that, I suspect
it's probably New Japan.
It's probably I mean, okay, if we're going like worldwide, I don't like who's bigger now, CMLL or AAA. Like I know who I prefer. I know who I.
My
know
understanding,
more about.
and while I don't follow it closely, is that CMLL is not what it used to be.
That's what I understand too, but I don't know if that just means they've gone from $5 million a week to $4 million a week, and AAA's at $1 million. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll just go based off of what we know. We'll go by buzz, I guess.
Sure.
AEW and WWE are number one, 1 and 2, however you want to order them,
and then probably New Japan 3.
New Japan 3,
and then AAA.
Let's stick with North America. Buzz in North America.
Okay.
WWE and AEW.
Yeah.
New Japan?
Or Impact.
You have New Japan, Impact, and GCW.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Impact is number 3.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too.
And I feel like for now, GCW is number 4 and New Japan's number 5, but it's a really close 3, 4, and 5.
It is. Because we'll get a better idea if and when Impact starts doing their TV outside of that studio.
Yes, I agree. Then I think in terms of buzz here in the States for other companies, who's got more buzz, MLW or Ring of Honor? They're kind of on par, aren't they?
Yeah, I feel like it.
I feel like they're kind of on par. I feel like MLW, they do like a lot of cool stuff, but I never hear about it.
Yeah.
Like they need to really get their social media game going.
Like I heard good things about the Fatu Hammerstone match. I heard good things about that.
You know who's going to be skyrocketing now is Noah because of Ninja Mac. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
That's great stuff. All right. Anyways, that's going to do it for our Rampage review. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate our SmackDown review is up at the channel. Probably if you're watching this immediately, then maybe not. But yeah, check that out. It's going to be at some point.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.